So we knew the kind of macro problem space we wanted to build, but we actually took a default assumption, which is we do not know what the product needs to be. We literally didn't. We said, hey, we're a little bit older, we're a little out of touch, we probably don't know. And then the kids probably do it better than we do today. They've probably got new ways to do it. And so to convince ourselves to do the startup, even before we actually had money or really got at it, we interviewed 50-something VPs and CTOs. And that was easy for us in the sense that we had a strong network given our past of that, but also it was a proof point of an undersold market because we could get those interviews quickly, okay? And so we did this, and so along the way, we convinced ourselves this thing we wanted to do because people actually shared the pain that we saw and be like, no, there's no new answer. We have the pain too, it still holds. So great, we want to solve that pain. And so when we got going, we just called those same folks back and we said, hey, can we work with you on this stuff? We will do whatever you want. So this is our pro service angle. We will do your spreadsheets, we'll do your PowerPoints, we'll do whatever custom work you want, as long as we can have access to your digital systems. Okay? Whatever you want. And so that was our pro services framing. We didn't charge them for it. So that we can have dialogue. And so our assumption there was by doing this, whatever they ask us to do, they're going to actually want, right? And we're going to learn what the product needs to be to solve this problem. So we'd meet one guy and they'd be like, oh, okay, I think I need this thing, or I need this deck, or I need this exercise, I need this analysis, and we do it for him or her. And then we take it and bring it to the next guy. I'd be like, hey, so if we did this, it looks kind of like this, would you find value in this? And they'd be like, yes, no, and that didn't work in this. And so we use this as our loop of how we actually built our first kind of 10 alpha partners or product discovery, whatever you want to do it, right? And for us, it was because of paranoia that we didn't want to build something that no one cared about. And we wanted to work with people so we could actually prove value. And it helped us figure out what size of company, like what's the pain point, what's the use case, like can we build products to actually solve that? And we always had an idea of building a digital product along the way that was a platform that builds in here. So we had some kind of meta vision on this stuff, but we didn't know what the things were, so we had to do this, right? So when it came to, so if you're talking about kind of alpha partners, that's our first 10. But then when we actually talk about real dollar paying customers, sure, we turned around after time and started asking those folks, and like, would you pay for this? And so you learn pretty quickly, like they like that part of it. But the same motion happened. So then we started scaling that part of it up and start talking to people that we didn't know at all or that weren't alpha partners and try to pitch it and frame it there and try to think people would buy it there. And so we started, we hired a couple BDRs, bought a Zoom info database and started hitting it. And we had a sales advisor that helped us, kind of get that machine going and gave us repetitions to go ahead and talk to more folks and start pitching this. And that gave us the journey to our first kind of 20 customers on that path. And so of which probably the first 5 maybe were people we knew from kind of development from our early kind of customers. But the next 15 were just people we found on just raw prospecting. Wow.
I love that. I think one of the things I talked to a founder yesterday starting out, and they said to me, I'm doing discovery and I've talked to 3 customers, prospective customers. They said, do you think that's enough? I said, that's not even close to it, and when you say 50, right, I think it is that kind of volume. Yeah. You need to be doing something of that type of 3, 5, that's not gonna do it. They said, you have a number? I said, I don't really have a number, but if you ask me, it would be 30, 40, and I think to your point, when you do that, I love that. I love that. And I also love the services thing. I'm on this kick of the companies that come out of the services, the product companies that come out of the services kind of business or origins are so, at least the ones I'm involved in, are so successful because there's no question of product market fit by the time the product is built. Otherwise, you wouldn't have built the product in the first place if you weren't doing the services. Those two are actually both of those. The 50 customers, and someone else had mentioned that to me on an earlier episode. But that services piece, I think, is I'm really happy you brought that up.
Yeah, and I'll say, look, I was talking to someone else about this too, and I think. And maybe it's relevant again. It was relevant in the 90s. Maybe we hit it again today, right? But I think there's one trap that I think people should actually watch for in that model, okay? So this is why, as a founder you are a product person too. Anybody's a founder and a product person because you're making the calls which way to go. You can't just do whatever they say. Okay. So in pro services, you're selling your time for dollars on this thing to make a thing. Okay. You need to still have a passive vision around where you're trying to go, because they can take you left, they can take you right in places that like then they may never be your product. So your job as a product manager is you're there to edit and decide whether you want to take on that contract, take on that engagement. And if you take on that contract and take on that engagement, whether you actually want to bring that to the platform or not. Okay? Because the bad trap of this is you can just keep doing it, and all of a sudden you literally are a services company where there is no commonality around anything you do, of which it does not bundle into a product, of which you don't own the IP for this thing. Then you've just built a services company, which is not the goal here, right? On that stuff. So like it's a tactic, it's not the game, you know?